Hello, I'm Jester Borris with I Want to Be a GM, and welcome to D&D Through the Ages Part 1. This video series explores the differences in the Dungeons & Dragons editions. We start with the White Box from 1974, and we go all the way through Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the game that we're all playing today. This video is broken into 6 separate chapters, and it's taken from one of our more recent live streams. If you enjoy this video, we hope that you'll give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content from us, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. As always, we welcome your questions and comments, and so what we'd like to know with this video is what's your favorite edition if you've been playing for a long time. I really enjoyed 2nd, I've also played a lot of 3rd, and there's a lot of people out there playing 5th edition. And if you haven't played much more outside of 5th edition, let us know what you're playing currently. We always like to hear what's going on out there. If you'd like to find the places where we hang out, be sure to check the social links in the video description. In particular, we've got a fairly active Discord, and so if you'd like to join the growing community of game masters over there, you can hop onto Discord and share your best tips, tricks, and stories. We'd love to have you. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy the video, and until next time, I'm Jester Borris with I Want to Be a GM. Stay safe and have fun. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. I'm Jester Borris, and with me over here,
I'm Troy. Some of my friends call me the playing Scape guy. We're about to find out why.
and we're the GMs with I Want to Be a GM. You can find us on Discord, Twitch, and YouTube. We do live in-person events at our local game stores as well, so if you happen to be in the area, be sure to come by and check those out. This is our 3rd section of today's stream, where we're going through the ages of D&D. We started earlier with the White Box edition of 1974. We've gone through the 5-box set and just finished 1st edition. So we're about to dive into 2nd edition, and we've got a lot of books that we're going to be able to showcase for you. We're not going to go through everything because that would just take too long. But let's start here. Show us what you got on the pedestal there, Troy.
So we're going to start with like what we have been on the last couple of the versions. We're going to hit some of the highlights out of the player's handbook here in just a minute. So I do want to show you the players of the monster manual and DMG. You can see they've been used a little bit. 2nd edition is my favorite edition. We're going to find out some of the things that I like about it so much. So my player's handbook that has been
Well-worn.
well-read.
Well-read, that's the one.
So 2nd edition, 1989 and forward. I think it had a life of about 5 years.
Yeah, despite its short run, it had a ton of interest. I remember when the new books were coming out. There was always sort of an exciting thing.
So let's start with alignment.
Right.
So one of the things we ended on the 1st edition, where we were talking about alignments: neutral good, lawful evil, chaotic evil, all that mess. So in reading that, I don't recall reading this, but in 2nd edition, it makes a big deal about non-aligned characters, a character that does not have an alignment. Now, these are unintelligent monsters, such as killer plants, other animals that don't have moral or ethical concerns.
Right. So protection from evil doesn't necessarily protect you from plant monster.
Right. A dog, even a well-trained one, is not chaotic good, chaotic evil. So when you're running things as a DM or even as a player, like you said, protection from evil, well, it's not really evil. It's just hungry.
Yeah. And that's one of the changes to alignment, one of the updates for alignment in 2nd edition.
So I like showing off the artwork when I can. Are we on there?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So here's some cool artwork.
The full color pages in 2nd edition were really nice.
Oh yeah, the 2nd edition really spent some money on showing off some artwork. 1st edition does have some here and there, but mostly 2nd edition had really cool artwork.
Yeah, sorry for the glare there, guys. Just a little. But it's full color gloss pages are nice.
Yep. So when we get into, remember we talked about the Unearthed Arcana. 1st edition had non-weapon and weapon proficiencies to make you more of a badass fighter, or give you some skills that were not related to fighting that you could use for doing things such as climbing walls, picking locks, and a number of things. So proficiencies, weapon and non-weapon, they really get into them.
Yeah,
in second edition.
Them now they're in the player's handbook, not expansion book.
That's right. They are in, and they really, really go into them. Especially the weapon ones. The weapon ones I freaking love. As a first to 6th level fighter, you could attack 3-2, which meant your first attack, you could attack twice with your sword. Your next round, you attack once with your sword. You know what that did with a bow? You could shoot twice. Yeah, it made you a force to be reckoned with.
That's something you don't see in 5th edition until levels 5 or 6, depending on your class.
Class
extra attacks. So fighters will get a little sooner. Bards may get the option for level 6.
And we got some books sitting right over here we're going to get into in just a few minutes that'll really show you what they did in 2nd edition for some weapon and non-weapon proficiencies and different skills and things. Okay, We're ready to move on to another little point.
What do you got?
Initiative.
Initiative is a big one.
This is one of the things looking at that changes as we go from version to version. First edition, we actually have a die 6 for party and die 6 for monsters. Okay, each round.
Right. Okay.
By the book. So here in 2nd edition, page 95. Look at that. I'm on page 95.
Make sure you're following along.
1 die 10 for players, 1 die 10 for monsters. Lowest goes first.
Okay.
And you can apply some modifiers, bonuses and negative. If you got surprise on the monster, you're going to get a bonus. If you got, I don't know if you got a guy in plate mail that's trying to be sneaky, you're not going to get a bonus. So, but they also have an optional rule that I do want to point out. It's on page 94, group initiative, optional. This is the one that I prefer. This is the one that I use. This is the one that I've written up in a few times.
I've even borrowed this and taken it into other game systems, and I feel it's sped up combat in a lot of other systems as well.
It's a sped up way to keep down the number of dice rolls required for a single combat roll, allowing for much faster combat. Okay, so using this option method, 1 die roll is made for each side of the fight. It's a group roll, so 1 dice for the players, 1 dice for the monsters, according to actions individual. And you can even add one of the optionals that we've done for 5th edition is let them apply their character bonuses or proficiencies, what skills they may have that give them a bonus reaction to the dice. So we'll take turns. So as we're playing, the person to my left will be the first person to roll for the group initiative. He's going to roll a die 10, add some modifiers. Maybe there's some negative modifiers that the DM only knows about. So we're going to apply those modifiers. Lowest die number goes first. So he would start, and then the player to his left, and the player to his left, and the player to his left. And they'll finally, the monsters get to attack. The DM runs those as appropriately. And then the next combat round, the next player, number 2, is going to roll, apply whatever modifiers they may have, and so on. And then player 3, and then so on, so on, so on.
Yeah, we get into some of the specifics on how we've used that system in our video on initiative, and you can find it on the YouTube channel.
I like it because it allows every player's character the opportunity to be first in a combat round. And one of the things that I don't like too much about the 5th edition. Once you set that setup for your rounds, you have people with the same kind of modifiers or whatever. You know, they're always going to go last. They're always going to go first. And maybe the scenario, hey, we got this great plan. We could do that in this room. But, oh, you go first, or he's got to go first, and I can't do that because it's going to ruin my shot or whatever.
There's some complications with initiative, but we see that even in the white box set where they determine things by range. If you were an archer, you always went in front of your fighter. Could present its own sort of challenges. So it's where we like the flexibility of determining by round, and we also like the inclusion of allowing each player around the table to roll as you go. But it came right here from 2nd edition's rules.
It came out of 2nd edition. Came out of 2nd edition. I tweaked it a little. The changing the player who rolls the dice is not there.
No, that's what I mean. Some modifications.
That's all me. So anyway, that's just a little something for you to think about. Maybe try with your game, see if you like it. If you don't, if you like it, use it. If you don't, you don't have to. It's just a suggestion.
Yep.
Remember, nothing is an actual rule written in stone. It's all suggestions. So says Gary Gygax in the first book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're moving along. I'm gonna get some spells. Anybody?
Fireball.
Fireball. So here we have the range is now 10 yards plus 10 yards per level. 10 yards is 30 feet, where the first edition it was 20 foot. So my range has gone up a little bit. And
now we're adding components.
We're adding components: verbal, semantic,
mm-hmm.
material. I have to have a pinch of something. And did we get anybody answer? No, nobody answered. Okay, so I guess we'll just have to read along at home. The material components, Matt?
Sulfur and bat guano.
Absolutely. So I want to carry a big bag of that.
Well, it's in my mind. When they talk about it in the white box in particular, they say that the wizard may fire a missile. And so I just like roll and flick.
Yeah.
You're like, this is how much I want you to die. Here's some, there you go. And then it explodes and everything's on fire.
So a while back, I got involved with some LARPers, and one of the things that they were doing was Fireball. And for the interactive combat of the live action role play, the magic user had all these little beanie bags.
Oh, yeah.
And different colors represented different spells. And the yellow ones I remember were Fireball, and they weren't very big. They were about the size of a golf ball and yellow. And he would yell Fireball and would throw it at you. And everybody would just kind of dodge, Bruce Lee style, out of the way of it. And I remember one of the discussions was, I don't want bat shit all over me. So, successfully dodged it. I made my saving throw.
Here's one thing. Don't have a cat as a familiar if you want to cast Fireball. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah. Okay.
Like substitutions for the material components don't go well.
No. I can't imagine.
Okay,
so
we got like material components were an addition here. One of the updates to the spell. But where are we at with damage?
Damage is 1d6 per caster's level, maximum 10.
So we see a cap come in on second edition.
Second edition, you have a cap. First edition, there's no cap. I guess maybe somebody in the game got tired of getting blown the hell up with a 15 hit die Fireball.
Now it's still a third level spell, which means you're a fifth level caster.
It is still, but that is still a massive, imagine. That is still a massive spell.
And you're not sacrificing spell slots. You're not having to move things around. It scales with you as you're more powerful.
Right.
So when you're 15th level, in this instance, you'll be capped at 10 D6, but you're at 10 D6.
Yeah, all the other descriptors, how much area it contains, it sets stuff on fire, blah, blah. You point your finger and boom, it happens. All of that is still relatively the same, everything you're used to in the other versions as well. But the material component is a tiny ball of bat guano with sulfur.
Now, one of the things, do we get any new classes or some adjustments here?
There was something on the Ranger, but I don't remember what it was, and I couldn't find it when I was rereading this.
Right.
Now, I may be thinking through the Brown books. So
some of the things that we were also able to take advantage of were different world settings. So Forgotten Realms, Greyhawk, those sorts of things were coming out. And we've got a lot of expansion in that regard as well. So what do you remember there, Troy?
It was magic users. So second edition is where they introduced the different schools of magic. So alteration, enchantment, conjuring, divination, invocation, aberration, necromancy. So you were a mage of a specific school.
Yeah.
Your spells were more powerful. And then there are other spells, of course, that you were not allowed to cast. And if you had a spell from the school opposite yours, then you took more damage.
Or it was you had like if it was enchantment or mind affecting, you'd have your ability to resist it was less.
There's a lot of that. So in second edition, they broke out the different schools of magic. I know there's different times in fifth edition that they talk about the different ones. But second edition is where that concept came to pages. and the illusionist. A cleric and druid. They're pretty much the same, although they can't. It's a spell to turn into a beast, whereas in 5th edition, it's just something they can do, but it's a spell.
So one of the things that we also got, in addition to the core books, your player's handbook, DMG monster manual, you see we've got over there DM option high-level campaigns, and then player options for spells and magic, combat and tactics, skills and powers, and then the so well-named Book of Artifacts. A lot of really cool expansion material started to become available, particularly in this black book set, which was meant for experienced players, people that had probably been playing 1st edition for quite a while. And we're trying to get
to really add some flavor to your game. And as an experienced player, when 2nd edition, because I've been playing for probably 10 years, close to 10 years when 2nd edition come out, and all these books started coming out. I was like, wow, this is great. So I want to show some of the other expanded material that was coming out. Here's a few of the books. Just a few. This is a taste. We're going to get to some others here in just a moment.
Yeah. So what he's got up there now, we've added the Drow of the Underdark. So Forgotten Realms as a world setting, the Underdark, of course, a feature of that setting. That book deals specifically with the Drow, their culture, their religion, their weapons, their methods, their lore for that setting. That is was a Forgotten Realms specific expansion for the Drow. And, of course, we've got Drizzt Do'Urden, and his adventures were popular, R.A. Salvatore. So now we had that as a feature. But beyond some of those, Greyhawks and Forgotten Realms adventures, when it came to making some of the coolest characters that have ever been killed in a dungeon, we ended up with a lot of really neat books and resources to help that out. So which ones are we going to talk about over there, Troy?
Well, I just want to show what these are, because a lot of the younger players, I've never seen these before, so they're not even have an idea of what these are. So as an example, this book here is called the Complete Thieves book. And the stuff that's in here is everything from armor, weapons, skills.
Well, set it up, see where we got.
I had it on here for a moment.
Right.
About here.
Seems to be.
So it is everything that you would need to build a really kick-ass thief. We started getting to those skills. We were talking 1st edition about the Thief Acrobat. And you can do like the parkour stuff and get up a building. That's further developed in here, as well as some tools specific to that skill.
Yeah.
The Thief Assassins and tools, armor type, weapon types, anything and everything that your thief would need or need to know how to do to be just the greatest thief that he could possibly be.
Yeah. So we went through these books a little more detail in our preview, just because they are really cool. But you'll notice we've got all the classes, all of the races. We've got different campaign expansions for Crusades, Vikings, themes along those lines. And I know I'm forgetting some because I can't necessarily read them from over here. Yeah. But there were a lot of really cool expansion books that allowed the players to build cool characters, or allow the game master to build much more interesting NPCs.
Yeah, all of these books, especially ones for the races, had skills specifically to the races. And like the elves and the dwarves and the halflings and gnomes, you had different types of gnomes and dwarves and stuff.
Yeah. And
they would go into the details of the different races and tribes of the individual dwarves and elves, so that you could really add some flavor to your character. If you want to flesh him out and really make him unique and fun to be around, these are the books that you really wanted to have. So let's show. Well, here we go. Here's one of the odd ones. Monster mythology.
You mean where in mythology those monsters came out of?
No, this is mythology. What kind of gods monsters would worship?
Here, sit down and crack that one open a little bit. This one was really interesting because it's not just like your regular lizard folk, orcs, goblins, but we get down into the Underdark where, what does a beholder go to church on Sunday for? So, some really interesting lore added into these books that could expand your world setting or expand your understanding of an existing world setting. There's really cool books. And we see a little bit of this now with like Volo's Guide to Monsters and some of those books that are coming into 5th edition. But this was sort of the original on that one.
How about some goblin gods? You can say that 3 times fast.
Rocket
Goblin gods. Gods of gnomes. Gods of elves. Gods of dwarves. Gods of... where's the monster ones are the ones that are just phenomenal. Because I can't find it at the moment, but there is a god of the beholders.
Yeah.
Now, who wants to accidentally walk into that church? You got 100 beholders attending Sunday service.
You're running from the Drow slaver party. You take a left at the end of the stalagmite, and you burst through a set of double doors.
Oh, hide in here.
Yeah. You better roll a really, really good stealth check, because that is a lot of eyeballs.
They better actually hide.
Yeah.
So, we've talked a couple different times for 1st and 2nd edition about psionics. Psionics being where you use your mind to attack each other. They actually broke that out into its own book as well.
Yeah,
so that
expanded on those because they were smaller sections of the player's handbook or DMG. The complete psionics handbook covers everything A to Z. Your abilities, the monsters that want to eat your brain, why they want to eat. I mean, it's a lot, and it's really cool. So if you wanted to play with psionics in your campaign,
all of these books are 100 to 150 pages in length. So you can only imagine the volume of material that would be there for you as an experienced player or an experienced DM to add to anything.
One of the things that we get into as well sometimes is the hobby can be expensive. So these books right here, $15 US on the back sticker. That's not too bad for a book that can help you expand your elf lore and understanding of elves, or build the coolest character that Legolas would put up on his wall, as a poster. So yeah, there was some expense to be sure, but it wasn't out of the reach. So very cool set of books, and that was one of the biggest things we saw with 2nd edition. Was not necessarily a huge departure in rules from 1st to 2nd, but was all of the content that they brought in, the lore expansion. We got Forgotten Realms, we got Ravenloft, we got the Underdark, we got Planescape, we got all of this content. We got the high level or the Black Book series. So it was definitely a lot being thrown out there, but it got consumed. People were just playing the crap out of D&D, and it was a lot of fun.
I was one of them. And as you can tell from my collection, I was one of the nerds that they were marketing to.
Yeah, and so it's awesome. And
I was a private in the Army, and I had very little expenses, and I was buying stuff.
So one of the things that we have in it as an advantage for older players that have this content, established world setting. So let's take a look at some of these box, and that's how they came to you in a box with all the books you needed, maps, ready to go. So looks like we're dealing with a couple of Forgotten Realms. Tell us a little bit over there, Troy.
At the top here, the Forgotten Realms, it's a world setting. It has a couple books and several maps that describe that whole world. So you as a DM can open the box and you're ready to play. They also have a city system, which has several of the larger cities detailed to the point where the name of the shop owner, what they have for sale, the ones that would need a caravan guard. It goes into great detail on almost everything.
Yeah, it's not exactly building for Waterdeep, but it's pretty close. And a couple of the other cities are done like that as well. So really, particularly when you get into Forgotten Realms and those cities and all the stories they put there, now you can really play in them. It's really cool.
So our next one we have here, this is the original box set of Ravenloft. I know a lot of the guys that play in 5th edition now have played Ravenloft.
Yeah, the Curse of Strahd.
The Curse of Strahd.
That is like the
this is
thin
him.
layer of Ravenloft. That, like, over here on the pedestal, that is all Ravenloft.
Yeah, and again, it has a couple of books and it has several maps. It's ready to play stuff right out of the box. The World of Greyhawk. Again, it's a couple of books and some maps, and it's ready to play. But the World of Greyhawk, as it aged due to a lot of enthusiastic players such as myself, they developed 3 other boxes. They have
So we got
the Wars from the Ashes, and the City. So the capital city Greyhawk is described in the World of Greyhawk box set some, but they made a whole box set dedicated just to the capital city, and it really, really is awesome.
That's one of the things that, like, when we say there's a couple of books in there, some of the books detail, like Forgotten Realms blows my mind every time I try to go and look something up, because it's like, okay, this event is marked on this date in this calendar, but it's marked by this culture on this date because they use a different calendar. When you get into Greyhawk, you know, by region, this lord hates this guy because he slighted him at the christening of this other noble's son. You're like, okay, that all sounds really annoying, until you weave it into your stories, and now you have everything firmly rooted in the world of Greyhawk, and it just becomes really cool. They're great resources to have. And so you see, we got Troy shuffling around here. We're about to drop this other set of boxes on the pedestal, and this is the one that took everything that was amazing about all the other world settings and turned them into well, they just brought them all together and, like, cohesively.
So the world setting of Planescape, we talked about in the 1st and 2nd edition. They have some write-ups on the different planes of existence and how they interact with each other and their boundaries, and some general effects that you might feel if you go to different planes.
Yeah, and then you're like demons from here and this and that sort of.
Right. So in Planescape, they take the 54 known planes of existence and expand on them like you wouldn't believe. There we go. So,
like, every box that we just pointed out a moment ago happens only on the prime material plane. There are 54, I believe.
54.
I would say 56. There are 54 planes of existence. Now, some of you may know that the Abyss alone has 256 levels of existence, and each one is as expansive as the known universe.
Well, it has layers, and each layer has multiple levels.
Oh, so yes.
So it's like
levels, layers.
It gets pretty complicated. It's rather huge and expanded.
But that's one of the other planes, and it's detailed. Yeah. So now we've got, there's the box over there, the planes of law. That's a write-up for a subset of the other planes laws. And then chaos, the city of Sigil was a really cool introduction. If you haven't seen anything on that, you're really kind of missing out. Just as a player, after we get introduced into the city of Sigil and Troy's games as he's going through, it just sets a whole different tone, and you have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, it's a city cool. Literally at the center of the universe.
Right, but which, if that's even possible, but it is.
It is,
but not really. It's awesome, and if you have the opportunity to get some of this material and read it and use it for your games, definitely jump on it. Very cool stuff. The
original material right now is kind of expensive. There's I can't think of the name of the website, but they're doing reprints of it, where the individual books, like each box set, they bind into a reprint softback book.
Right.
For approximately $30.
That's not too bad.
So, but if you go to eBay and attempt to buy these box sets as original material, you're looking at least $300 a box. So the reprints are definitely the way to go if you want to get into this material. And the place to start is the one that says Planescape, the campaign setting. Yeah. I don't know how they're doing that as a reprint, because it has 24 maps in it alone.
Yeah, there was a lot in that box. It was a pretty heavy box.
Each box has multiple books and multiple maps or other large diagram foldouts.
Yeah, and so when we deal with what was second edition, this is it.
This is still second edition.
One of the things too, I'll mention if you're borrowing material, whether it's so if you're running fifth edition, don't worry about borrowing from the older systems. A lot of the things that you have to change are just character sheets.
Yeah,
and not even that much. If I'm running that old module that we saw earlier, keep on the borderland, you're like, well, the orc in here only has 4 hit points.
Yes.
Well, then grab the orc out of the fifth
even
edition.
if you get one of these off of eBay, it's all about elves. Anything that's going to convert to the actual character where you have hit points or this or that or whatever, you can easily figure out how to convert from second edition to fifth edition.
Yeah.
What you need to. But in here, you're going to have all those really cool descriptions of skills and traits and equipment and things like that. And when you get to a world setting, like he was saying, anything that's on your character sheet or maybe the monster's individual description in the monster manual has changed some. So you want to bring out that.
Yeah, bring the new one.
So this is going to set your world. This is going to give your flavor for the night. And your individual fifth edition books are going to give you the nuts and bolts of your game.
Yeah. So borrow away, man. There's a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's staying within D&D.
Still. I think we covered second edition.
Well, we covered a lot of the books that we've got.
We talked about Fireball. We talked about Initiative.
Yeah. And Initiative was one of the cooler changes. That's one of the things that stuck with our games, even outside of the D&D systems. You'll find an optional rule in the 5th edition D&G that has a D10 by group initiative, and it's pretty much that one right out of the 2nd edition player's handbook. So if you're not using it, give it a try. We recommend it. It's stuck with us for a long time. I mean, since we started using it. So there you go. That is what we've got so far for 2nd edition. Again, not too many rules changes. So you'll find a lot of people that play the older stuff will play blended games, 1st and 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
You can take one character, sit down at the table. It doesn't break the game at all. But it's a lot of fun. So
in fact, my table is a blended 1st edition, 2nd edition, and homebrew.
Mm-hmm.
And I always challenge my players to figure out what rule I'm using, and they can't because it all just blends together so nicely.
Yeah, it's and when you've got something like that, it allows the game master to focus on the storytelling, which is kind of the big payoff for us. So definitely a lot of fun. We're gonna get set up here. We don't have a whole lot in 3rd or 4th edition. We've got those books digitally, so we don't have a whole lot of show and tell. But we're also sort of getting into the content that people have played already. A lot of you guys that are playing 5th edition now may have started with 3rd or 4th edition. So we're not going to hammer those too much since that's something that's a little bit more known. But we will cover sort of the highlights. And from there, we will see you on the other side of the break.
Remember us. I want to be a GM on Twitch, Discord, and YouTube. Like us, subscribe us. We'll see you later. This is Troy.
Mm-hmm.
That's Matt. We'll see you later.
Sorry.